Support for this program comes from the generous financial support of the Kauffman Foundation, helping individuals attain economic independence by advancing educational achievement and entrepreneurial success. Additional support comes from viewers like you. Thank you.
Should where a child rests its head at night determine the quality of their education?
The zip code in which you are born should not determine the quality of education you receive.
But too often, where people live determines what opportunities they have in life.
Destiny is not determined by zip code or by the economic wherewithal of your parents.
Does zip code really matter? Political leaders of every stripe weigh in. There are TED Talks on the topic, and now a new best-selling book.
It depends entirely now on what on your choice of parents. If you choose well-educated, well-affluent parents today, the sky's the limit. If you end up with parents who didn't get past high school, your goose is cooked really before you had a chance to get started.
For all the talk, here are some facts that we do know. Whites are twice as likely as blacks to graduate high school. Latinos 4 times more likely than whites to leave high school without a diploma. And 60 years after the famous Brown versus Board of Education case, schools have become even more segregated.
A study ordered by Congress found the percentage of high-poverty schools with mostly black or Hispanic students has more than doubled since 2000.
And for the first time, the number of American children living in poverty make up the majority of the children in our school classrooms.
It's getting worse, and now we're at 51%. So a majority of public school kids qualify for free food.
This half hour, we track the impact of zip code on our community. We're at UMKC, where we're partnering with the American Public Square. Along with our audience is the outgoing superintendent of Hickman Mills School District, who will depart for Lee Summit later this year. Also with us, the head of the University Academy Charter School and the chief of staff of Kansas City, Kansas Schools. Plus, flying in from New York City, poverty research expert Angela Rashidi of the American Enterprise Institute. Our moderator is American Public Square founder Alan Katz.
Dennis, the percentage of students in the Hickman Mills district eligible for free and reduced lunches has increased from 78% in 2010 to 100% today. Why don't you tell us about the living conditions for your students?
If you looked at every 100 students who come to school on the first day of school, 75 out of every 100 will not be in that same seat at the end of the school year. If you're moving from one rent special to another, or if you're moving to avoid a landlord who's now taking you to court and you're 4 months behind, there's a level of stress and trauma associated with that that ultimately has dire effects on the child's learning and ultimately their life.
Okay, thank you. David Smith, Kansas City, Kansas is large. It's an older urban school district. Do you have the same issues that Hickman Mills has?
We do. We're actually up at about 90% of our kids eligible for free and reduced lunch. We also have 42% of our students are English language learners, large refugee population coming into Kansas City, Kansas. We have some of the same challenges.
Tony Klein, you're the superintendent of a charter school, and you operate under different conditions than a public school district does. But University Academy students live in Kansas City, Missouri. They're admitted by lottery. Are you getting what we would call the typical students, or are they self-selected because the parents are motivated to get them into this lottery in the first place?
We pull from 17 different zip codes in Kansas City. You do have to have an adult apply you and to think ahead to put your name in that lottery. And that is something that most traditional schools that doesn't exist. We're also limited in how many students we can have based on the size of our building. Traditional school districts, if the population grows, they might have to bring in trailers. They're going to have to do what they got to do. However, I think our student body represents a lot of the challenges that are in the community. We give an ACE score, which accounts for how many traumatic events a child has had in their life, and 25% of our kids have an ACE score of 4 or higher. Those are the types of things like, parent being incarcerated, somebody being murdered, being abused or whatnot. There's a cross section there, but the elements of poverty we deal with every day.
Okay, so Angela, now you've heard from David and you've heard from Dennis and Tony. They talk about the conditions where their students sort of have. How much can schools realistically be expected to achieve? I mean, are we asking too much of them given the some of the socioeconomic conditions and particularly the neighborhoods in which some of these students live?
Short answer, yes. I do think we ask way too much of schools, public and charter schools, given the situations that many of these families come from. There's one thing that comes to mind. So there was this federal study, it was called Moving to Opportunity, and it was basically, some people might be familiar with the housing voucher program at the federal level. So it's Section 8, generally people think of it as Section 8. So there's housing vouchers that are applied to low-income populations. But they did an experiment in the 90s where they actually randomly assigned groups. One group that got the housing voucher, they actually moved from a high poverty area to a low poverty area. The other group sort of stayed in a high poverty area. What they found over time is that the children who moved from the high poverty area to the low poverty area, they actually did much better than their counterparts who were still living in a high poverty area. They also took that one step further and identified the characteristics of the neighborhoods that led to better child outcomes. And they pointed to a few things. One was quality schools. They also found, though, if there was a lower concentration of single-parent families, so higher concentration of married families, those children did better. And also less segregation. So I think that there are things beyond just, the schools that can really affect how children do in school.
So is it the responsibility of the schools to look up and sort of say, okay, we need to get involved in trying to figure out if there are Section 8 vouchers floating around, if there are things out there in the community that can really change the lives of our students to somehow change this? And if so, are you doing it?
Here's what I would offer. There's this body of research that's been put together by Dave Berliner and Gene Glass. And they've looked at students and their outcomes as it relates to assessment. And they said 60% of a child's ability to perform on an assessment has to do with outside of school factors. 20% has to do with in-school factors. And the other 20%, their research is saying that it came back unexplainable. Maybe it's innate intelligence. You might think it's divine intervention, whatever you might think that 20% entails, but it's unexplainable in their research. So with that being said, in communities like Hickman Mills, we have to really look at ways that we can focus on those 60% of factors that rest outside of the school. And I would tell you, based on their research, some of those things are controllable and some are not. For example, the percent of low birth weight children, low birth weight, we can't necessarily do anything about that. But kids that deal with food insecurities, we do. And we give kids free lunch and free breakfast every single day. And if they are involved in an after-school activity, whether it be academic or athletic, if they attach a study component to it, we give them free dinner as well. And we have some of the highest participation rates in those programs in the state. So that's something that we can control. Also in that 60%, you'll find high-quality early learning. And we looked at that early on in my tenure, and we committed $10 million in renovations. We're committing $3 million per year to every child, four-year-old in our district, full-day pre-kindergarten, door-to-door transportation at no cost to the family. And that's a huge, huge commitment and a huge strain on our budget, but long-term, we believe it's going to pay dividends. So you really have to be systemic in looking at those pieces that are out there in that 60% and really targeting in on those that you have the ability to influence.
Okay, David?
I think the one area where we're similar that we're trying to impact as well is early learning, because we know the impact. We know there's a study which was actually done by the University of Kansas and was done actually in KCK, where they found that from before a child enters school, a child living in poverty will hear 30 million fewer words than a child growing up in a middle-class household. I think we also think that the 20% may have some room for growth if we're willing to look at our work differently. So we're trying to pay attention to what are the things that we can do that maybe can mitigate some of the impacts of poverty. Things like in 2007, we did a one-to-one laptop initiative because we understood our kids were going to be going to college and competing with kids from Johnson County who had access to technology outside of school. Our kids didn't. If our kids were going to be successful, they needed that. If they needed it and their parents couldn't provide it to them, it was then our responsibility to figure out a way to make it happen.
Okay, thanks. So we're going to expand the conversation a little. I see our roving reporter, Nick, you've got a question for us.
Absolutely. Lots of questions coming in, Alan. Kay wants to know, what factor does housing play in this large movement of kids who start the school year in these school districts we've heard about, but don't end in that same seat at the end of the school year? What can a school district actually do about that?
When you can't meet the rent, you have to move. And that happens with our families a lot. And as far as changing that, I don't think we can really impact that directly, because the housing piece of it is a much bigger issue. It's an issue that the federal government and state and local government has to really affect.
When I think about our community, you talk about 71% of our students are in rental properties. And when you look at the sheer value of the homes, if a person had a budget and was able to earn a living wage, they could probably own that home at a less amount per month than they're paying to rent that home. And I think there just has to be, again, some will in the community to create those systems and those structures and put them in place so that this just doesn't become generational and become institutionalized for a certain group of people.
Joseph has a question for the panel.
We're talking about everything else, but what about violence and how that impacts education and also attendance? Children can't learn if they're not in school. Many of these children go through neighborhoods where they're in fight or flight mode before they even get to school. It takes them about 90 minutes to recover. By 1 o'clock, they're thinking about how I get back home and the obstacles I have to overcome.
So one of the things I think we do in KCK, we bus our kids much closer than what the state pays for. So the state, it's like 1.5 miles for elementary. We do it at 0.7 because of the challenges in the community, the neighborhoods they have to walk through.
Mr. Jackson, you're right. And I think our district is home of the most recent murder here in our city. So that's a real issue. And oftentimes when you're talking about asking teachers to do more, we're asking them to be therapists, we're asking them to be counselor, we're asking them to be mental health advisor, we're asking them to do all of those things. Oh, and by the way, you better nail this state assessment too.
I think violence plays a role on two opposite sides of the spectrum that I've seen. I mean, last year we had 4 students have one or more of their parents murdered, and that's rough, especially little guys. And the other thing community violence does is, we went through our numbers earlier, where 25% of our parents are not free and reduced lunch, but if there's violence going on in their neighborhood, they're going to move. When we track where our kids, where do we lose kids to? Where do kids, when they leave UA, where do they go? They overwhelmingly go to Lee Summit, Blue Springs, and Blue Valley. And when talking to parents, something may have happened in their neighborhood, and they're just done. And that hurts our school, because the more and more you become 100% poverty, you get to this tipping point where it's just really tough. And we have to have all spectrums of income in the school to create that stability, to give all kids a chance. It really does matter.
Well, just to sort of add to that, so in New York City, for example, it's been a long, there's a long history of segregation in terms of the public schools in New York City. They're trying to do a little bit of forced desegregation in terms of economics among the schools by rezoning a little bit and having open zones. And I have to say, though, it is facing some resistance in the more affluent neighborhoods. Because it's more just about they're nervous that if they get zoned to a school district that has a poor quality school, they don't want to be the test families that sort of try to reintegrate those schools. And so, New York City is a very progressive city, but it's pretty striking how challenging that can be. And because you're right, I think you need to move in that direction. It's just very difficult to think about how you get to that place, given the system that we have, which is very place-based.
Nick, you have another question.
Again, lots and lots of questions coming in. Blue Valley School District came up from Tony. And we have a question relating to that. Greg asks about a U.S. News and World Report story that came out from the Kansas City Star in April, in which named Blue Valley North High School the best high school in Kansas. But he wonders, is there really any better teachers or curriculum there, or are they essentially, because of its self-segregation of well-educated upper middle class families, would they still do well Or is it simply because they're born on third base?
Lincoln's here, right?
Represent.
And you number one in the state U.S. World News Report, correct?
Yep.
Right. So I'm very familiar with those rankings, so I want to talk about that a little bit. A lot of that's based on how many kids take AP. Is Blue Valley doing anything markedly different? No. I've been in those schools. There's not a huge difference in how we teach. There is a little bit of being, I don't want to demonize somebody for being born on third base, but that is part of it. Coming to with a better base set of skills, they started in kindergarten a little higher, and it's just been easier to build upon. And there's a lot of competitiveness within the students at a school like Blue Valley North that push each other.
I appreciate the question, and I was reading something the other day, and it put it this way. And it kind of resonated, and it may be a little harsh, but here's what it said. Teachers in a district, i.e. Hickman Mills, are given beat-up cars and ask that they try to get them to run a little better. And teachers in districts, i.e. Blue Valley, are given the keys to a BMW and told not to wreck it. So that's what we're dealing with, and that's just like super real, right? That's just like super real.
The next question comes from the superintendent of the Blue Valley School District, who is sitting over here. Okay, I'm joking. I'm joking.
So glad.
Would that be fun, though? Would that be fun? Okay. We do have a great question, though, from Joshua. Joshua, thank you for being with us.
What is it going to take for the residents within the community to realize their role and responsibility to be the biggest contributors? And sneaking a second question in there, what are some of the psychological effects on children who live with and grow up with trash-infested streets?
I don't know about the trash necessarily, but there is a lot of research that just shows that poverty and the environment that surrounds poverty has extremely detrimental effects on the cognitive development of young children. There's a lot of research that's been done in recent years that really points to the reason that kids enter kindergarten so far behind is because of the stress, because of the conditions that they have to live in. And that, I think, really does need to be our focus in the future, is focusing on those young children and trying to improve the environments that they're being brought up in.
To answer your question, how can we get involved? It could be running for school board, or maybe more importantly, voting for school board. There are a number of districts in this area that if you had 400 friends, hey, you're a school board member. They do low turnout election dates. Stuff happens, and the press doesn't always vet those candidates. I think in KCMO, we struggled to even find people to put on the ballot. We had some write-ins and stuff, and so that's something that citizens can do.
Nick, you have another question for us.
Absolutely. We'd heard a little bit earlier from our one audience member who said kids can't learn in the classroom if they're not there. This questioner, David, wants to know, could the solution be washing machines? What he's getting at here is a story from St. Louis, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, that talk about a school district there that was providing washing machines and dryers to an urban school district where attendance was so low, and because kids didn't have clean clothes, they weren't coming to school.
When I wake up in the morning and I find out I have no clean clothes, I usually end up just staying home. When I was homeless, we had no clean clothes because we only had a little bit of money and we used that money for food.
I think people don't talk about not having clean clothes because, I don't know, it makes you want to cry or go home or run away or something.
They want you to put as much clothes as you can, fit in a bag, and then they have you bring them to the school, then they wash them.
Since the program has been in the school, my attendance is consistent. The goal is 90. We have over 90% all the time.
Before the program, I think I would have said, you're crazy. A washer and dryer? That seems way too simple. But I think now looking at it, I think we know that it's made a positive impact.
How I feel with clean clothes, hanging out with my friends, I feel like nothing can stop me.
So, Are they providing washers and dryers in the Hickman Mills, KCK, and University Academy schools?
I had a chance to read the story too, but we always try and find this technical solution to deal with this adaptive problem, right? And we're always doing it. So they have the washing machines, and I have the Hope Hangout, you know, where kids can go after school to keep from going into that community that's plagued with violence until nightfall. So we all got these technical solutions, but in and of themselves, they're not going to solve the problem until we deal with those adaptive challenges that are outside of anything that we can just brainstorm in our existing repertoire. We do early learning, and now we're saying we got to get better and really have more quality in our 4-year-old program. And then now we hear, and guess what? We need the 3-year-olds too. And then I said, yeah, we probably need to go pick them up from the hospital. Right. But you know, no doubt. We can't do everything.
While Dr. Carpenter said they were already doing everything, I'm going to give him one more thing, because Deborah wants to know, what are your thoughts about school-based mental health? Is there any outcome research on this?
I don't know that I know the latest research, but I know that students in urban cores, i.e. Kansas City, Missouri, in the urban core, i.e. Hickman Mills, they come to the schoolhouse door with a level of PTS that rivals that of soldiers who've been in combat. So that's been checked, and that is factual. So if that is true, of course those services are needed. But you put them on this list. There's no infinite amount of money, right? So then you start balancing, I pay for this, and then I stop doing that, and you know, where are the resources going to come from?
That's part of the problem, that, you know, more affluent neighborhoods have the resources to provide mental health services in their schools, and yet low-income communities don't, even though they're probably more in need.
If you had the resources in Kansas City, Kansas, Hickman Mills, as Blue Valley has, would your students perform the same, do you think?
I think our students can do everything that students in Blue Valley can do, given the resources, yes.
Okay, so this is hard to hear, but here it is. The answer is no, and the research has been done in that area. Can they do better with more resources? Absolutely. But will they score the same as their peers in Blue Valley with the same resources? Absolutely not. This has been looked at in terms of the only test in the country that is standardized across the country. Educators know about it. It's the NAEP, the National Assessment of Educator Progress. And if you just go to the center of that chart on the NAEP, the middle-class child in the middle-class school scores a 512. The poorest kid in the poorest school scores a 455.
Just to build on my answer and just to clarify, if we're talking about kids' outcomes on culturally biased tests, no, they probably won't do as well. But if we're talking about life outcomes, if we're talking about where kids end up and the things they can do for their lives, then I think they can.
What I think I hear you're saying is, if we could somehow equalize, took all the money for all the schools and you threw it all in a pot, and you divided it by the number of students, you think that the disparity we see today in terms of outcomes for students would narrow significantly?
No, I don't. The reality is that, at least on the Missouri side, is a lot of poorer school districts get more per kid. And I think there's been enough studies shown that it's not about necessarily money spent per kid. A lot of this is that 60% we don't see. So if I have $10,000, he has $10,000, Blue Valley has $10,000, what you're not accounting for is how much private preschool did he have? What's the home library like? What did older brother do? Did grandpa go to college? All these little touches add up to a big disparity.
And I would also suggest that it matters who we put in front of our children, but there's some structural barriers that get in the way of that also. But it does matter who we put in front of our children as it relates to teaching them. We use this model called the Haberman model. And basically, it's a battery of questions that we're asking candidates before they even come through the door to see if they have the propensity to be successful with urban youth. Now, the good news is the Haberman model works. The bad news is we turn over a fourth or a fifth of our teachers every year. There's not enough teachers that score well on the Haberman to come into our district fast enough. And we know that there's structural reasons for that. Person goes to college, they want to be a teacher, they had this dream of the picket fence and the tire on the tree that creates the swing, and that probably doesn't exist in Hickman Mills, right? So, but I do need to come to Hickman Mills because the structure in place says we're going to do loan forgiveness if you go into this high needs area and you're there for 3 years. So not only can I go where I want to go after 3 years, I can go debt-free from my loans, and then Blue Valley, Todd White back there in the back, again, Blue Valley gets a teacher with experience in the toughest setting, and then she's probably gonna make more salary because Blue Valley can afford it, so it just makes sense, right?
And we have to, quite honestly, be willing to examine how we pay for schools, because the fact that Blue Valley can pay more than you creates a structural inequity that makes it hard for you to be successful. We face the same thing, and that's about how we organize school funding. The kids we serve can do just as well as any kid in Blue Valley, but it costs more. And that's the reality of it, and we have to be willing to pay for that.
Okay, well, first of all, let me thank all the panelists for being here, and thank our roving reporter, Nick Haynes. And, you know, we always hear a lot about how the state of education in America is deteriorating, et cetera. I think this community is so lucky to have these 3 educators here. I think we're very fortunate. Thank you all for a very opportunity.
Support for this program comes from the generous financial support of the Kauffman Foundation, helping individuals attain economic independence by advancing educational achievement and entrepreneurial success. Additional support comes from viewers like you. Thank you.